Oh no, my special light isn't on. Oh, lovely. Right. First order of business. Yes, I know I need a haircut. I don't need you to tell me. Second order of business. This is the same guy, by the way. Yep, I say that jokingly, but it's actually a very important part of Akamura's character and this chapter, emphasizing that Akamura from before the war and Akamura because of the war, like after the events and what it did to him, it is a very important like distinction to make. And I love this chapter, even though we don't actually like move anything forward. We don't, you know, get any closer to figuring out if we're going to be able to save Chiaki from being handed over. We don't really get anywhere on like how the enchanted blades are actually going to be forged. It's a very character interaction and reaction focused chapter, which is really good and really important and a good reminder that it doesn't always need to be action. Yes, it's goofy, obviously, this being the same person like in literal 2 years time, or not even 2 years, he's going to be looking like, well, this. But, you know, it is very important to kind of distinguish, and Samura did say in their little mini flashback towards the end of his fight with Akamura that the war did change him. I know he says the war didn't make him, or staying in that cell for 18 years didn't make him lose his mind, and he was in a good mental state. But what he meant by that is he knew what he was doing when he did the malediction, and he intended to, right, with full conscience. That doesn't mean he couldn't have been a different person with different values, you know, before this, which I think we're seeing here is his innocence, right? So in a kind of flashback within the flashback, we see Chiaki still as a servant girl, sort of just like comforting her brother who apparently got picked on, and him being like, I want to protect you, you know? Page 2, beautiful. No words, the symbolism of the butterflies and the flowers and Akamura smiling. Amazing. Hokuzono, mwah. And then something hella tough. This giant tree that we saw Akamura training in front of before is now broken in half. Yep, it is tr/e. That doesn't really work for that word, but you get the point. It's in half, and it was kicked in half out of rage by Hiroto's brother, Giyu Soga, a man who supposedly possesses the Kurasuchi sorcery, but his body isn't currently trained enough and equipped enough to deal with it. And he is a fighter equal to Yoshinojo, who was second in command. Hiroto was the head of the Soga clan. Yoshinojo was second in command. The royal guards fall under that. This guy was equal to Yoshinojo, but he wasn't sent to Arishima, because if he died, there's no one left to take over. And he's like, I'm gonna surpass Hiroto, and I'm gonna, you know, be the big, strong guy who restores order to the Soga clan, and his royal guards are around him like, oh, alright, boss man, we'll hand over Chiaki, no problem, bruv. And then we get another little panel of Chiaki's mum crashing out. She's realized that everything's gone to shit, her daughter's about to be handed off, and what's very interesting is she asks the guy that we saw training Akamura earlier in this arc, he says, just kill the chief, just kill him. And the guy that she says it to is like, that's beyond my capabilities, but it's very important to note that he addressed her as mother. The translation supposedly is maternal mother, and it's also, the way they're talking is like, he didn't say that would be treason, he said that's beyond my capabilities. As in, if he could, he would. I think Chiaki and Akamura have another brother. Okay, I mean, it is kind of grass is green, it has pretty much told us here, but like, yeah, I think he's their sibling, which is interesting. Anyway, boss man Giyu is sat around looking like Itzo Shirakai Sukuna with his, like, you know, Sukuna pose, smoking a pipe, thinking he's all cool. It's kind of given like Ogi Zenin talking about how he should have been made head over Naobito kind of thing, you know? And then we see all of them sense the presence of this young boy, Akamura Soga, wielding a katana, and he does nothing. He stands in the doorway, holding his sword, and looks angry. That's all he does, right? He made no actual threat, nothing like that, but you can tell, obviously, he's pissed, right? He is staring down a fighter equal to Yoshinojo and 3 royal guards that come right under him. I'm calling them royal guards, that's probably not their actual title, but whatever. And they're just sensing bloodlust to the point where, I mean, I can't blame them, I'm sensing it through the fucking screen, but they're like, yo, Akamura, can you put the katana down, please? Please, alright? And they're like, this won't be too much of a big deal. Obviously, he's upset because we're giving away his sister. Not great, but they ain't looking too worried. Giyu doesn't really care. His brother runs over to get him to stop. And then what happens is the guards threaten to take Akamura down using force, and then bam! He has blitzed past all of them without them even realizing what happened, and slices the pipe away from Giyu. Now, Giyu, trying to maintain composure. I know he's shitting himself right now, but he's trying to aura farm. He's trying to act nonchalant, and his, again, I'm going to call him brother, right? Then it's like, oh my god, like I knew when he was training, like I could tell he was a genius. He was an amazing swordsman, and I did have a feeling he would be equal to Hiroto and Yoshinojo one day, But then he says, for a split second, I'd almost mistake him for Hiruto. Crazy Hiruto glaze, by the way. Insane glaze. Yeah, Akamura... We know he's that guy, but he's that guy, you know? He just is that guy. And I really like seeing this side of him in contrast to the beginning, where he's kind of a lot more innocent. He does take protecting his sister very seriously, but it doesn't escalate any further than that. I did think we might get a Maki Zenin clan repeat, but no. Chiaki comes in, and she tries to, like, talk Akamura out of it and say, like, look, I'm gonna save a lot of people's lives and stop a lot of people from being hurt by turning myself over, so you've got to let me do this, because as your older sister, it's my job to protect you. And my absolute favorite, this is my favorite page in this chapter, it's my favorite bit of dialogue that we've gotten from Akamura so far, where he tears up and just says, I'm not okay with that. Which is, you know, you get this kind of trope a lot in stories, especially shonen manga, where there'll be a character that is willing to go through like huge self-sacrifice in order to protect someone they care about, and oftentimes the people they care about don't want them to do it, right? Because they'd rather have them, and the person trying to sacrifice doesn't understand their value to those other people and what their lives would be like without, you know, you around. So it's kind of like Chiaki wanting to physically protect him, but I really like the very blunt, instead of like explaining in some deep philosophical way, you know, why she shouldn't think like that or whatever. It's just a very simple, but I don't want that. I'm not okay with that. It's just a very raw emotion that has been expressed there, and I really like it. But yeah, he took up the sword to protect her, and that's it. It doesn't really advance anything that far forwards, right? We have no idea whether Chiaki will be handed over or not. I'm still thinking no. I think we do get an idea by the end of the chapter why they're gonna retract that plan, because the war does canonically start soon, which means something goes wrong, right? They don't follow through on the terms. But that doesn't really advance anything. All we learn, new information-wise, is that Gyu exists, which is like cool. And yet, it's such a important and necessary kind of like thing to cover, because to make a massive decision like that about Chiaki, knowing what it means for Akamura in the future, it's very important to emphasize the actual initial reaction from these characters, right? To see where their mind's at, to see that vulnerability from Akamura as a child, and kind of take the time to have those interactions is a very important thing, I think. So I love this chapter, it's great. And then we cut to Kunishige and Subaru sitting on the train, and I have to admit, after reading this chapter and the last few, I'm really enjoying the initial kind of like mentor type role that Subaru is fulfilling here, and how he was the first blade wielder to actually like interact with Kunishige and kind of set him down the path to making the enchanted blades, which does mean most likely he's going to be given the first one that's made, right? So I really like their role, and I can't wait to get back to him in the present time. They're just talking about the Datanseki plan. They understand why it was rejected. They also know the alternative is garbage, which, let's be honest, I'd rather let Kunishige play about with Datanseki than say, fuck it, strong baby. You know what I mean? But yeah, they decide they're going to go ahead and do it without the government's help, which means we get this full page of the Datanseki being stored in this sealed room, 36 kilograms of it, and then the next panel, it's just gone. There is a tiny little glitch effect on the panel, a small one, it's there, which is a dead giveaway, we know who stole it. But before I even noticed the glitch effect, I love how Hokuzono has built up Shiba to be a character where he's not on screen, he hasn't been in the chapter at all, but just by the way he's laid out that panel, I know full well who took it. He is off screen, man, but he's so off screen that like when he's off screen, you know he's on screen. Don't think about that too hard. It makes sense, trust me. And then, the GOAT. The GOAT, Hasumi, alright? This guy, didn't care for him at first. I was like, he's just going to be here for the war, whatever. He's been having problems with managing Shiba this whole time, and he catches Shiba trying to steal the Datanseki, and he lets him go. And he knows full well that he's gonna get in a lot of trouble for this, which he does. He is, he was accused of being the mastermind behind the string of incidents, which I think is a bit harsh and extreme. Bit of an overreaction from the Kamanabi. But then 10 days later, he resigned. A lot of people think he was killed. I don't know. I don't really care too much. I think he's done. But W Hasumi is given Usami Kusakabe vibes, you know? I like it. I like those characters a lot. Anyway, chapter then ends with what I think is Subaru taking Kunishige to where he forges his swords, which is an obviously much bigger facility than what Kunishige would have access to. And he also has managed to figure out that Kunishige is in love with Chiaki, and then Kunishige outright admits it. So yeah, there's that. And then the chapter ends, peak double spread. The forge was alit with flames. Amazing. I love it. I love the slow build. I love just emphasizing interactions. That is the key thing this chapter. We are not just rushing on to show events. We are giving these characters substance, either to help add to characters that already exist in the main story present time, or to add to characters that we're yet to meet in present time, like Subaru. It's adding a lot of important context. It's not just about the events. It's very important we get these interactions, and it's why I love this chapter so much, because again, very little has moved forward. We've learned nothing new other than like stuff about Giyu, for example. Damn, do I just love the conversation and the raw emotion that we get from like Akamura, for example. It's really dope. I like it. There's not much more to say on it than that, so I think I'll leave it there. But yes, we will hopefully get back to weekly Kagurabachi now. I have a fun feeling that there'll be a chapter review soon that you guys might find interesting. I'm just saying. Like, subscribe, I'll see you in a bit. Peace.